waste any time. Now, set this up. God, what would be the best thing to use? Oh wow, people already here. And I'm early. I'm sure there's a way for me to do this in advance and then go live, but I'm a tech illiterate. And so, oh, that height's okay. Wow, okay. Somebody writes something. Oh, I can see it. Charlie. Hi, Charlie. Wow, okay, this is much better than I've done it in the past. Thank God. Hyacinthioids. Hyacinthioids. I don't know how to properly pronounce that, but anyways. Yeah, thank you for the compliment. It's the skincare. It's the skincare is number one. That's the key. Maybe if I hit 100,000 subscribers, I'll do a skincare routine. So spread the word. Velma, Mom, what am I drinking? It's Tiger, which is like, I want to generically say Asian. It is. It says Asian lager, but I've only think I've ever had it in like Indian restaurants, mostly, but maybe some Chinese restaurants too. I don't know. I can't really remember. But yeah, it's an Asian lager. Just a generic thing, but I like it. It does the trick. I didn't have time to get a glass, so I'm just giving free advertising essentially for the Tiger Brewing Company, which I guess there are worse things I could be advertising, but whatever. Let me make this a little higher. So yeah, what's going on? There's a few people here now. Ask away if you have questions, or if you don't, then that's fine too. Jan, I've been working on. I want to do Marx, so the three volumes of Capital. But, to really get into Marx, you got to really know what he's on about in terms of political economy, whatever that is. So I decided I was going to read The Wealth of Nations, which I've been working on. So I've been working through The Wealth of Nations, which is about 1,000 pages, which I'll do on here eventually. And yeah, then I'll do Marx. But I've also been working on kind of translating the Beaujorda Debate very amateurishly. It's not professional in any way, and I'll probably just do an episode on it and then put some WordPress or something with the written translation. Dylan, do I dye my hair? Does it look like I dye my hair? Look at all these gray hairs. Okay, Womp Womp, favorite philosophy book. I really like Colasso. Colasso's The Ruin of Kosh. That's really up there. Immanuel Kant's First Critique, the Critique of Pure Reason, is up there too. One book that I've really liked that I've read recently was that I did an episode on it, and I'm sure it didn't really get that many views or anything, so it might have flown under the radar, was Trisha Rose's Black Noise, which is kind of like a history of hip hop music, and it was so interesting. She's such a good writer, and I think she's at UCLA, I think. Yeah, she's very. So yeah, those are some, throwing those out there. What else? Do I have an opinion on the tie? No, I don't. I've actually never read the tie. I just know some basic things like the accursed share, and that, I don't really know much else, so I don't have much of an opinion. McLuhan and Bojart. Maybe Bojart. Bojart wrote briefly about McLuhan in. Interestingly, Bojart wrote a little bit about McLuhan at the beginning of his works. For a critique of the political economy of the sign, he wrote a little bit about McLuhan, mostly to say that he was dissatisfied with this medium as the message thing. And then later, I think it was in The Perfect Crime, he wrote, which would have been in the early 90s, he wrote, rather than think about technology as extensions of man, extensions of man, he proposed instead to think of technology as the expulsion of man, or of humans. So yeah, I might do a thing about them, or like what Baudrillard thought about him at some point, but I don't know. Yeah, Touch of Grey. Yeah, Ricardo. Yeah, Ricardo is really the more prominent figure in Marx's Crosshair. Yeah, Jan. Yeah, or Jan. Whatever, whichever one. Yeah, Ricardo is definitely the better one, and I might do that too. Smith was for me just the perhaps the choice that more people would be familiar with, and one of the things that I hate about Smith, and I really hate this book, is that it's just so uncritical. It's just so naive sometimes. Like, he's talking about the division of labor being like a kind of impetus behind the formation of various new technologies that therefore forwarded the division of labor, and he never like kind of critically assesses, well, where does that come from? Because on the one hand, you need these technologies to encourage the division of labor, to allow people, to have a person just making shoelaces, another person making the soles. You need a vast kind of industrial mechanism put in place. But in order to do that, you need a division of labor. So he never really interrogates that, like, what comes first? And for me, like, Marx is just so much more interesting. And no one asked this question, and I'm just rambling. But yeah, I just love Marx, and perhaps I should read Ricardo a little more. Yeah, Daniel, there are ways to do that. If you go to my Patreon page, you'll be able to find anything you'd like. We can definitely talk about that. For professional reasons, I'd be curious what that is. Alejandro, yeah. So Alejandro, I might read Ricardo, and I probably should. But anyways, BB, thank you. Yeah, Jan. In their Mike, in their uses, you mean both Bojart and McLuhan? Because I don't know how McLuhan uses reversibility, or at least I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember how he uses it. An OnlyFans, yeah. If it'll get me rich, sure, I'll do it. I'll share photos of more pictures of my cats. Oh, that's cool, Daniel. Yeah, definitely reach out. I'd love to be of help. What have I read by Marx? I've just read like little bits from the Gundress, from the the early manuscripts. the Manifesto, just another excerpts from Capital. I've also read a fair amount of Rosa Luxemburg, so that really explains that. I've read Michael Heinrich, his book, part of the so-called new reading of Marx, which is I don't know if I care about much of that really, but yeah, I never actually read Capital in its entirety, so I'm looking forward to that. Josh, you've been around for a while. I definitely remember you being around for a while, Josh. So yeah, thanks for sticking around this long. What am I working on nowadays? I'm working on right now. I still have actually tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. I'm doing an episode on Heidegger's The Question Concerning Technology. So I'm sure some people will like that. And I'm also working on Marx, or I'm going to be working on Marx, but I'm currently working on Adam Smith to then get to Marx, and then maybe Ricardo. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. But I've also been working through the Beaujorda Debate, which should be good. Yeah, selling my soul on OnlyFans. But that's the thing. I'm not much of a Marxist, and I've never really identified with Marxism generally. Marx is just one of the most intelligent philosophers ever, and just thinkers ever. Like the way that he was able to think about the situation he and the world is in is it's really quite unparalleled in my mind. Yeah, for sure. 3 volumes are thick, yeah. I think that naivety is a common feature, weakness of us economists. Maybe. How is the Bible coming along? Currently, so I've been reading the Bible, and I'm currently I think I'm in Deuteronomy. So it goes Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and then Deuteronomy. I think I'm in Deuteronomy, and it's horrible. It is so horrible. It's just the most vile thing I've ever read. Bahram, what is my opinion on Adorno's Manifesto on jazz aesthetic? On the jazz aesthetic, well, I don't... Fuck. That's a good... I don't feel good about it because he doesn't understand the complexities of jazz, number one. I do really get some racist vibes from it too, because and his sentiment was echoed by almost anyone at that time who wasn't part of that community. Everybody hated jazz because they were like, oh, it's just trying to be different when it really isn't, which is essentially Adorno's point. It's just like a kind of superficial departure from the kind of mainstream. So yeah, I don't really like it. Maybe I might do an episode just on that. But his arguments are interesting because he knows so much with he knows so much about music. So his criticisms are good, but he doesn't understand the complexity of jazz at all, and it's really too bad. BB sweet text. Sirius, hey man, I stumbled across this channel. I'm so glad that I did because it's so cool. Question for you: are you a moral realist or are you an anti-realist? I don't really know how to answer that. KG, congrats on 10,000. Have you ever gotten into philosophy of history? My wrist. I was doing from 8 to 5:30 today. I was doing drywalling, and so we were using this kind of black caulking to fill in some cracks and gaps and in between the ceiling and stuff. For about 4 or 5 days, I've been doing fucking drywall. So I got that on my wrist, and I tried to wash it off, and apparently not so good. But to kind of backtrack here, I just don't really know what a moral realist is versus an anti-realist, because I won't answer because I don't want to sound like a dummy. What are my thoughts on Bojart? Well, I am kind of critical of him. I've heard so many anecdotes and read so many things that about him that really, doesn't paint him in the best light as far as my own like political views go. He was pretty racist with some of his writings. He had very problematic views about gender as well. But I'm also very much interested in his thought and have covered nearly every one of his texts on this channel. You talked about the Beaujorda Debate, just like briefly. So Bojart thinks that what happened at 9/11 was a symbolic event where people in the world who were subjugated by America's kind of totalitarian global rule were fighting back, and for that reason it demonstrated a kind of symbolic gesture. And Derrida essentially responds by saying, well, there are so many other things going on here. It's not just about 9/11. It's not just about American power. It's about various oil interests, the kind of turning tides of international law in terms of the UN and the Security Council. So yeah, and they are just totally talking they're just talking right past each other. They just really don't. It's worse than the Chomsky-Foucault debate. They just don't. They're totally in different terrains. In your opinion, what are the best objections to his theory? To Baudrillard? Best objections? Well, the feminist ones are perhaps low-hanging fruit. Like it's easy enough, and the critical race ones are easy enough to take him out on. But like in terms of his own theory, where it falls short, he doesn't nearly. He has flip-flopping views about some things like reversibility, where at the beginning of his career he's very skeptical of reversibility. Beginning of his writings, he thought of it as just a way to kind of keep the system going, whereas he wanted a more radical change, and that was him coming out of the steam of the '68 kind of revolution, whatever you'd call it. And then later on, he kind of applauds reversibility, but in a totally different way. But he never really says why it is different. Like, he says why he likes reversibility at a certain point, but he doesn't say how it's a departure from the previous forms. But yeah. But the thing is that's so clever about Baudrillard is that he's very much aware that every system of thought as well, is going to be implicated in its own demise. And so he kind of always was ahead of that, and that comes out in the way that he's quite provocative and quite playful in his writings, where he's anticipating these possible rebuttals, and it's difficult to take him on, but it's interesting. Whoa, okay, I got a lot to catch up on here. David's a big fan of, favorite analytic philosopher. You know what? Favorite analytic philosopher. Judith Jarvis Thompson, who wrote that, the pro-choice argument with the musicians there, the music lovers group, is probably the best argument I've ever heard in my entire life. And that I think she would fall into that camp. But anyways, I'm very familiar with David Harvey. He wrote the postmodern, the postmodern, not the cultural logic of postmodernity, but the other one. I've read a bunch of that. Ooh. Marx or Locke? Marx, 100%. Beebe, yeah, it is. But the way that he kind of, I mean, you asked it about in terms of the jazz aesthetic, but he just kind of clumped those two together as though the mainstream and jazz are just like the same thing, when they very much were not. Very much were not. Rose is listening. Yeah, I play jazz. It's pretty sad how badly it is misinterpreted by writers, especially Norman Mailer. I've never read his stuff on jazz. I've been trying to get into jazz, playing on guitar, and it is so impossible. It's very difficult, and I'm trying to teach myself, which is a mistake, but I can't be paying for lessons now, and it's What do you think about the distinction between early and late Foucault, where he starts talking about this Nietzschean self-creation, aesthetics of existence? Mostly the essay was Enlightenment. Okay, well, here's a thing that's kind of a departure from that question, in that I never really subscribed to these ideas that they're like early and late thinkers, because like I don't ever see a thinker ever having been like fully concretized into either form, either their early form or their late form. And so I just don't really know. Like we'd have to have a longer discussion about that. Um, I know that his later stuff, because when I think of his late stuff, I'm thinking of the history of sexuality. What is enlightenment to me? I'm actually having an episode on that one is coming out next week. The one I did on that, but I don't see that much different. I mean, he's so systematic that it stays pretty consistent from the order of things all the way to the history of sexuality. He's always laying out these lists. It's very systematic. It's very well done. Very historically cogent. I don't know. This is my way of saying I don't know. Alan, I mainly started Capital because so many people cry out against Marx. I just need to be able to discriminate between the claim. But yeah, I like Marx a lot more than I think I align with Marxism personally. Yeah, because, and there is another thing, like, there is a tendency to think that the only criticism of capitalism is a Marxist criticism, when that is very much not true in any way. There are very many other criticisms that could be considered. Thoughts on Foucault? I think I already gave something there. One time, hey David, hey, have you released any new videos? I haven't been doing anything on the computer lately. But yeah, everyone, if you don't know, you should go check out. One Dime has done at least one, I think a couple now, videos on Bojart and one on Deleuze and Guattari that are worth checking out. Okay, so moral realists believe that moral statements can have truth value. Anti-realists don't believe there are moral facts or that all moral statements are false. I would just appeal to, and I know that Kant isn't taken too seriously in terms of like moral ethics, but I think that he's really onto something when he's appealing to this, perhaps this noumenal quality of what I will just brazenly call the human condition, that is perhaps the domain from which we garner the capacity to have any moral judgment at all. So while I don't know if I can ever say that something is definitely moral or not, I would be more interested in the possibility itself that we can have that discussion, because there must be something there. Otherwise we wouldn't care about anything at all. We just eat each other and nothing would matter, but we don't. Well, we do a lot, but the fact that we don't all the time is a good sign. I don't know, but I kind of feel like late Foucault is a departure towards a more individualistic, though that's maybe too much to say self-care, whereas I feel you know what? Okay, that I can actually. There are quite a few, I should say, quite a few kind of neoliberal sentiments in Foucault's thought, and that's an argument I've heard before, and it's something that I agree with. Like, he's definitely, even the last line of the history of sexuality, he's like, we have to focus more on bodies and pleasure rather than sex and sexuality, which is all well and good, but it puts forward this idea that there's like a kind of a realness behind the artificiality of sex and sexuality. And I'm like, I don't really know if that's possible. Like, what is beneath it all if it isn't that? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a Baudrillardian. Like, I don't know how to separate the real from the artificial. in the way that Foucault seems to claim to do. I haven't read Zizek's Desert of the Real. I'm not a huge Zizekian in any way, shape, or form, but I'd like to read that someday. A favorite anime? Oh, well, Dragon Ball Z is pretty good. Favorite anime? I was watching. I watched Castlevania. That was pretty good. I mean, I've been meaning to watch Akira. That's supposed to be sick. And of course, Miyazaki is fantastic. And God, what are some good ones? Oh, Evangelion, of course. I loved Evangelion. Like, that was like that great show, and the film, great stuff. Is Baudrillard's logic of radical alterity best demonstrated in the Seduction book? No. Radical alterity is best demonstrated in the Radical Alterity book. Oh, well, no. Demonstrated. Okay. If you don't know, that he has a book called Radical Alterity, which is an interview with, I think his name is Marc Guillaume, who, and they talk about that idea, but radical alterity, best worked out in Seduction, or demonstrated. Maybe. I mean, that argument I wouldn't say no. I just don't. I don't know how to measure that. In a philosophy class, and the most we read is analytical philosophy. Most of it is quite boring, expectedly. Yeah, and I couldn't take an analytic philosophy class. I couldn't do it. It would bore me to death. Marxist-Leninism, Maoism. Like, I just don't. I have so many issues with great parts of it, of all three. But I would definitely. Yeah, like I'll appeal. Genesis is a mess. Yeah, appeal back to my other comment. I'm definitely more of a believer in Marx and what Marx said, than the way that it's taken up by some Marxist and Leninist and Maoist circles. Especially because you can't really catalyze the revolution in Marxist terms in the way that I think that it is believed it can be motivated or encouraged in some Marxist circles. But this is a conversation that would take much longer. Baudrillard accelerationism, please. Baudrillard would be diametrically opposed, in my opinion, to anything accelerationist. Unless it was taken completely ironically to come to the end of all things, where he wrote about accelerating essentially, or in the year 1999, he was like, why are we even doing this? Let's just jump to the year 2000 and it'll end. Everything will end. And it'll be like a kind of retroactive looking back into nothing, which is, I made that argument in an essay. It should be coming out soon on Vaporwave. For anyone who knows about Vaporwave, kind of how Baudrillard would think about Vaporwave. Okay. Do you see much of a connection between postmodernism and anarchism? No. I just don't know. I don't really subscribe to the notion that there is this postmodernism. I just don't know what that means. And I'm not trying to be difficult. I just really have trouble knowing what that means, because you say oh well, it's Baudrillard, it's Foucault, it's Derrida. I don't see anything similar, between those thinkers, and I have trouble just clumping them into this category, or as a kind of post-industrial idea, post-industrial movement in the economic stage. I just don't understand what postmodernism is, because what we saw 30 years ago, and that we are currently romanticizing with Vaporwave, for example, romanticizing office buildings and 9-to-5 jobs making $51,000 a year, and then you go home and your 3 weeks vacation, a very shitty life, as far as maybe fulfillment goes. But today, we're looking at that as being a better option to this gig economy, or if we can even call it that. We have Cernicek calling it platform capitalism, which is a very good way to think about it. And so, are these two things? I mean, they're both, according to, I think, everyone, both indicative of postmodernism, but I just don't see the kind of connecting thread, and it's difficult for me to see that, let alone attribute it to anarchism. But I guess my short answer is no. I haven't watched the Adam Curtis film. I've had so many people tell me about it, and I'm just it's coming out next week. Damn, I'm taking my comps exams. Enlightenment versus Adorno. I actually haven't read The Dialectic of Enlightenment. It's one I plan on doing and reading in a few weeks, maybe a couple months. But yeah, I wish I could give you an answer there, but I don't really know. Oh my God! Here I lost where the fuck I was. Let me speed up here. Well, yeah, one dime, you have one Bojart and one cool. Critiques of capitalism separate from Marxism. Well, you got Harold Innis. I mean, I think Baudrillard's work could very well be interpreted as a critique of capitalism. You get Foucault as well. You get certain feminist criticisms, especially critical race ones, that attribute even the possibility of capitalism to racism. So we are dealing then not with a kind of a natural progression in terms of economic relations, as Marx would put it, but also of racial relations that allow for the formation of capitalism. So there's just right off the bat. One dime. You cover a lot of great stuff, not just theory specifically. Why don't you engage in decolonial and post-colonial thought? It's really you're absolutely right, and there are reasons for it. I mean, I've done Baba, I've done Sarah Ahmed's stuff on that. I've done I haven't done Edward Said, which I plan to, but in case you don't know, I've done Bell Hooks, I've done Chandra Mohanty, I've done Sunera Tobani, I've done Shireen Razak, I've done Dylan Robinson. So those are some examples. Maybe you hadn't seen that I've done those, and a few others, but I'm very much into that. Kant isn't taken too seriously in moral ethics. Did I hear that right? I just don't think that he's I think it's something you have to read. I don't know who's still talking about it, but I also know nothing about the analytic philosophy circles. What do you think about post-humanist movement, Braidoti? I really disagree with Braidoti. She gives us, as I think Andrew Culp kind of says about Deleuze, and I have the similar critique of Deleuze myself. In Dark Deleuze, he says, Deleuze gives us too many reasons to believe in this world, and I think that Braidoti does too. There are too many things wrong with it for us to have the kind of optimism that Braidoti has. Mimetic. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm talking out of my ass. I mean, I'm not in any of those circles. So, how are you able to read a text that takes me months and even present in such an accessible form in such a short time span? I mean, that's all I do. If I don't like Marxism very much, what about Marxist thought do you enjoy? It's almost like in some of the kind of general Marxist circles, and I'm not talking about Heinrich or David Harvey or some other ones, but just in the way that it's taken up that capitalism is evil, which Marx was absolutely not saying at all, or that some strange strands of Marxist thought that are oh well, we have to turn back the clock on human evolution and to go back to a time when we were more more egalitarian, stuff like that align themselves with Marxist thought. that Marx and Engels were absolutely opposed to. They hated that. Yeah. Last show I binged watched. That's a good question. I don't know. Probably binge watched. I don't know. I watched a lot of garbage. Probably like. What was the last show I watched? I mean, it's all just a blur in COVID. Insert any reality TV show. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, so I watch a lot of like Sorted Food and Good Mythical Morning. You know, the kind of stupid stuff. You know, some of the Bon Appetit people who left Bon Appetit, like Claire Saffitz and Sola. What else? Yeah, I don't know. Mostly just watch like stupid reality TV shows. But if I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Womp womp. Do I like Pluto? Yeah, I like Plato. Why not? Akira is real good. Yeah, I'd like to watch it one day. Social Experiments, Lane, the best philosophical anime. I'll have to check it out. You should watch Serial Experiments, Lane. It's an anime made for philosophers. I will look into it. The thing I know about Kant is that people should never be means to an end, but that people are always ends in themselves. Yes. Yes, that is the essence of the second critique. Ghost in the Shell. I have the manga here, and I've read that. Paranoia Agent is an excellent philosophical anime. Very cool. If you want a cool anime, I would check out Full Metal Alchemist. Brotherhood. I haven't watched that, but yeah. What's your motivation? The fuel that keeps you up and read all these hard books. I don't know. I just like it. I mean, I like this stuff. I like trying to decipher what they're on about. Because I want to know. Maoism is often seen as the anarchism of Marxism. Sure. If it is, it is. I don't have anything else to say about it. Maoism, in theory anyway, is more interesting than Leninism. I take your word for it. I don't know. I've never actually read Lenin, so. Matt, how's it going? From land down under. Matt from Australia. I'm currently reading The Sublime Object of Ideology. Very cool. Bifo, I don't really care about Bifo. I've read The Soul at Work. I mean, it just felt like a rehashing of like Marcuse. It didn't, to me, seem all that interesting if you've read Hard Negri or you know, even Gramsci. Like, it's not all that interesting. And I've seen him talk. It was one of the worst talks I've ever seen. He was just ad-libbing on the spot. It was garbage. It was at a Bojart conference in Oxford, and it was very bad. Very bad. Yeah, priority. Isn't the uniting theme of postmodernism... Yeah, let me know. Isn't the uniting theme of postmodernism a skepticism of meta-narratives? Yeah, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going to go down that route. Matt, I've been quite good. I've been good, tired, busy, very busy, but yeah, we got to keep in touch about... I saw in the Discord you were mentioning some dates for talking about the book, and I'm good on them. I just haven't read... I haven't gotten around to it yet because I've been so busy. Any tips on reading The Critique of Pure Reason? That book is the most difficult thing ever. It is so, like, I struggled. I had to read so many, like, summaries, so many essays about it just to get what was going on. Like, and there's still things I don't understand. And that is one book that I would redo on this channel because I think I screwed it up so badly. The Critique of Practical Reason and the Critique of Judgment, I think I did okay on, but that one, I totally butchered it. Totally butchered it. Thorstein Veblen, yeah, I've read the Theory of the Leisure Class. The Veblen, you know, the Theory of the Leisure Class. Yeah, I got it on my bookshelf there. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's another good critique that's not Marxist. how did the Beaujorda Debate start? They were talking in 2003, and it was just before Derrida died, actually, just a few months almost, I think. He died in 2004. They're discussing the impending invasion of Iraq, essentially, or like the ongoing invasion of Iraq by the United States, talking about war, what it meant today, why it was going on. Space of Literature by Blanchot. No, I've only read, what did I read by Blanchot? The Writing and Literature, or, oh, I don't remember what it's called. Something in literature or something that I read a few years ago, but I don't remember it. Challenge to Grand Narratives, yeah, sure. Is Dark Deleuze worth reading? I think that the critique is good. I think that it's good, and it's small too, a little book, which is always nice. So, yeah, that is absolutely it. Seduction is opposed to desiring production in Deleuze, and libidinal economy in Lyotard. Yeah, absolutely. Except, as far as what I know about libidinal economy, because I haven't read very much Lyotard, but desiring production, yeah, that's like seeking out, and we have no control over it. Whereas seduction is an opportunity to be taken out of yourself, in a not good way. But for Baudrillard, it's actually a symbolic sign of power to some extent, without using, just using the term power kind of colloquially there. You say that you dislike the term postmodernism, but what about the term post-structuralism? It seems both closer to describing the actual history of the thinkers, but just as easily abused as well. I would agree, and I would, it makes more sense to me, post-structuralism, especially because it isn't like used as this boogeyman term that's threatening to take down Western civilization. Would you ever cover any rightist thinkers? Younger would be worth covering. No, probably not. I don't know who Younger is, but no, I won't cover rightists for the sake of representing rightists in any way. I mean, it depends what kind of political stance you're coming from, but most of what I cover would probably be considered rightists. Like, there are some pretty conservative undertones to Baudrillard's thought that should be kind of evaluated. But anyways, Peterson and animal liberation or more extreme ethics like negative utilitarianism of David Peirce, for example. Pierce or Peirce? Well, I don't know of either of those things. So animal liberation would obviously be great. Am I a socialist? That's a tricky question. Like, yeah, I don't know. As far as I just don't know anything about economics, and so I'm like, I just try to refrain from actually discussing those things because I just know nothing about it. As far as my own political views go, I align myself more with anti-racist feminism in as far as it goes for me. And yeah, of course, the socialism is obviously great. I just don't yo, hi, Chupa Miumbre. Peirce, thanks, Alan. Thanks very much. It's very kind of you. What's your favorite work of film theory or film-related philosophy? Oh, shit. That's a good question. Deleuze's cinema is good, but really difficult. I had a lot of trouble understanding it. I thought it was great. It's kind of a cliche, but I liked what Laura Mulvey had to say about the male gaze. But I read so many great essays, and I don't know if it's just me. Because I don't know a whole lot about it. But as far as film theory goes, I find the best stuff is in essays, and shorter articles, not like full-length books in my experience, but so, and I can't remember many of them, but it's so many great books about so many so many great essays, sorry, about so many films and stuff. And yeah, Mark Fisher, Justin Murphy. I don't know who Justin Murphy is. Mark Fisher's cool. He's the Kurt Cobain of critical theory, sure. Heidegger's philosophy, I don't know a whole lot about it. I've just read a few excerpts from Being in Time and the question concerning technology. So I don't know a whole lot. I get there are a lot of these kind of conservative undertones and wanting to harken back to this kind of time before the industrial, or our loss of attachment with nature, which is a massive reduction of his thought. I understand. So I have like those elements kind of bore me, but it's interesting. Guy Debord, yeah, I would like to. I haven't actually done any Guy Debord. Like I have Society of the Spectacle. I don't know. I'll probably do it at some point. For one, I don't feel like Fisher is a good theorist. I mean, he makes things accessible, but doesn't really bring anything new. You could read. I would agree with that. But I also attribute value to the capacity to make things accessible. Like, I never want to discount that. I think it's a skill. Favorite thinkers that you think are underrated? Roberto Colasso, number one. Roberto Colasso, number one. Underrated thinker. Another one, as far as like thinking goes, and I was talking about it earlier, Trisha Rose is her stuff on hip hop is super interesting. And like it might seem kind of social sciencey, but she has so many interesting insights. It's really fascinating. Underrated thinkers. Sunera Tobani. She's wicked smart too. Yeah. Daniel Robinson has a great video series on the critique of pure reason. Don't know who is asking. Check that out. Yeah, that'd probably be helpful. As a right-winger, I can concur Bojart is one of our guys. There you go. Are you ever going to do a video that compares Derrida and Deleuze on Différence? No. Oh, well, maybe. If I ever read Difference and Repetition, maybe I will. As far as I know, there's not anything similar. Maybe there is. I don't know. I haven't read it. I don't know enough to say. We're all capitalists because we have to. Yeah, for sure. What are the conservative portions of Bojart? Just the kind of reactionary elements opposing like feminism and critical race stuff. But at the same time, he has his own kind of radical anti-sexism and radical anti-racism that's also there too. But it comes out in certain forms in a way that he describes the situations unfolding, kind of illustrating racial minorities as being like closer to nature or something like that, or having more of like an exotic aura about them, which is obviously super problematic. I've never read Stanley Cavell on film and agreed, yeah, well, that's good. I wasn't have I read much on anarchism? No, I haven't. I really haven't read much on anarchism. I wouldn't know how it works in any way. Seduction is transcendental. Yeah. Spinoza, I don't think I've ever read any Spinoza. It's funny, one time, that was one of the first questions, what do I think about Bataille, and I haven't really read enough to know. Bruno Latour, I would probably do that one. We've never been modern. I would do that. Racial capitalism. Attempts to think together intersectional and Marxist approaches to social oppression under capitalism, for sure. I'm all for that. It's great. People ask if I'm a Marxist, communist, socialist. I simply reply I'm an anti-capitalist, or I simply say I'm for the end of exploitation. I mean, I would definitely align with that as well, I mean, those are, sounds good to me. Who would say is the most important or the most fresh? Again, Colasso. He's still writing, I think. I hope he didn't die. I mean, he lives in Italy and he's really old. I don't know what COVID did to him. But, yeah, Colasso. Without a doubt. He's written about from the French Revolution to Marx. He's written on a book on the painter Tiepolo. He has a book on Kafka. He has a series of essays taking on Adorno, Nietzsche, Simone Weil. He likes Simone Weil, but yeah, great stuff. Thoughts on the lack of a metaphysical analysis of human workers in Marx's alienated labor? No idea. I don't know what a metaphysical analysis would look like. So you fill us in there and we can go from there. What are your thoughts on how post-liberal conservatives are starting to assimilate postmodernism in their theory? You'd have to say more before I'd give an answer to that. What's your opinion on fully automated luxury communism? It's a book by... No, I don't know what that is. I guess from the title, it'd be like as though moving into communism, we'd all be like, we'd live like royalty. I mean, that's what I'm gathering from the title. I've never read it. Thanks a lot, Jamie. Thanks, Hytham. Oh my god, I got to the end here. Oh, cool. I thought I was way behind. Yeah. Heart and Negri, they're great. They're great. I haven't read a whole lot about of them. It's not like my typical brand of philosophy that I like to read so much, but no, it's great. Cryptocurrency, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about any of this. Like, I've been kind of watching TikToks about the exchange of art via cryptocurrency, and it's just it's so fascinating to me, but I know nothing about it. I really don't understand. Is there a lineage between Neo-Marxists and Post-Structuralists? I don't even know what a Neo-Marxist is. Like David Harvey and like Heinrich? I don't know. Those old farts, like, I don't think they have anything to do with post-structuralism. I mean, they're critical of post-structuralism, so I don't think that there's a connection there. Islamic philosophy, I'd like to. I would love that. If you have any suggestions, let me know, and I'd absolutely like to read that. Okay, if you're talking to other people, have you ever read or planning to cover any BIFO? No, I probably won't do BIFO. Maybe The Soul at Work at some point, but I'm not a huge BIFO fan. Any resources on the crisis of masculinity that is not Jordan Peterson? Check out, Michael Katz. He did his documentary. Oh my god! And help me out, someone. Katz, masculinity. Jackson Katz? Is it Jackson Katz? Yeah, I think this is the guy. I think it's called like Male Tough Guys. Tough Guys. Check that out. Tough, Guise, not Guis or Guys. It's two movies. They're great. So that would be a good place to start. Have you read much Freud? I haven't read much Freud too much. I'm not too much into Freud. My opinion on psychedelics such as shrooms and DMT, like in what way? Like whether they should be legalized or what have they done for humanity? I mean, there's those ideas that they essentially potentiated consciousness, which is obviously great. Anything about aesthetics and art? I really don't know a lot about aesthetics and art, and I try to stay away from things that I just don't know, because I try to only talk about what I know. The Metaphysic of the Healing by Ibn Sina. That sounds great. I'm gonna go through these comments later, and then I'll write that down. Any tips for humanities academics trying to build a YouTube following with content similar to yours? I don't know. Just, if you want to do well, just put in more effort than me. Like, put videos with like actual images to look at, not my stupid face or like a black screen. Or talk about use that any knowledge you might have to help people understand like pop culture, and that would help you build a following, no problem. Like, talk about films, like maybe even video games. That would it would the algorithm would help you out a lot too. It's not what I do, but I think that that would be a great way to put stuff that you've learned to good use and help people learn about that stuff. What is your favorite fiction works? Oh, Jesus. I really like Waiting for the Barbarians by James Coetzee. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Favorite fiction? The classics. The classics. I really like Catch-22, but I haven't read it in years. I just listened to it as an audiobook recently. At least parts of it. Jane Eyre was really good. Autobiography of My Mother by Jamaica Kincaid is another really good one that I haven't read in a few years, but I'd like to read again. I don't know. I don't read much fiction at all. I'm trying to read more of it. Arabic/Islamic. Jason Babak, Do It Omnicide. Cool. Sounds great. Any tips on how to read faster? You get faster with time. It just takes, you get used to the way that arguments are delivered. You get used to the vocabulary and stuff. Colasso, Roberto Colasso, who wrote, I've covered some of his texts, but the Ruin of Kosh is a book that really resonated with me, and I've read it. I've been meaning to read it again, but it's a really good one. Do you read hard copies or ebooks more? Either or, whatever I have available. Like, if I can get it for free via ebook then, or PDF or whatever, then I'll do that. I don't really have a preference. I think I would prefer to read hard copy, but I'm not picky. No, I've never done psychedelics. That would, yeah. Sure, it's great though. Okay, so the whole thing is metaphysics is a conversation I think I am out of the loop of. Your vlogs are great, David. It's like having a one-on-one with you. Sometimes graphics can be distracting. Thanks for the encouragement. I'll keep it that way then. How should you start reading Zizek? Just start. I don't find Zizek, it depends what book, I don't find he's all that inaccessible. Like, first as farce, then as tragedies might be a good place to start. It's fairly easy. He talks about common things. What do I think about the cyberpunk movement? Yeah, you're talking about Neuromancer. That's a great book. That's a great fiction book. What do I think about it? Obviously, I'm skeptical. I think that it's I'm very skeptical of any kind of emancipatory potential attached to these highly regulated and algorithmic sources of possible emancipation. I don't know if that's possible, but what do you think about speculative realism? I haven't really given it enough thought to have an opinion in any way, shape, or form. Do I subscribe to any particular ethical system? No. Like, I try to follow the golden rule. Like, I guess from the biblical tradition that I think that I've been kind of indoctrinated into. I just, with a Christian tradition, just try to don't be an ass and be nice and generous to people. But I don't know much about any kind of political, ethical systems at all. I like reading hard copies, but they are so expensive. Yeah, it's disgusting. What do you think about early Baudrillard works, System of Objects and the Mirror of Production, in comparison with his later works? He's, at that time he's coming more off the steam of the 68 revolution, and definitely his attachment to thinkers like Guattari too, maybe not so much Guattari, but like Marcuse. Kind of some vague connections with the Frankfurt School more generally are there, kind of cultural criticism, criticizing consumption, are all there. And he's obviously indebted to Lefebvre and Bourdieu at the same time, and I'm very glad that after the Mirror of Production he kind of changes his tune and starts to get a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. But I still like that earlier stuff, especially for a critique of the political economy of the sign. It's a great book on what probably his most underrated. Am I interested in mysticism? Not so much. I mean, the only kind of mystic thinker I've actually read is Simone Weil, if we can call her that. But yeah, I don't really know much about it. Don't have much of an opinion. Have I read The Society of the Spectacle? Yeah, but years ago. Since I'm in the chat today, I just want to say thank you for your been on Body Without Organs. It was really helpful. I find Deleuze and Guattari pretty tough. I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to hear it with some help. Yeah, their stuff is tough. Will this be saved on my channel? It should be. I think but I think it's kind of weird. Like, you have to go to my channel, go to videos, and then there's like another tab at the top. I don't think it will appear. It might, but in case it doesn't appear, it's just another video. You have to click like the live tab, and then it'll be there. Hi, Depro Gamer. Aristotelian virtue ethics through practice would nicely sum up your ethical approach, it appears. Sure. Why not? What do you say about the idea of, you have to read this before this to really understand it? Like, you have to have read a lot of Kant before difference and repetition to understand it, feel like a loop. Yeah. If you subscribe to that, you'll never read anything. And, someone might say, well, just start from like Plato, work your way up. Plato and Aristotle, St. Augustine, I don't know, wherever you go from there. But I don't know. I don't know if you can really understand Plato without reading, without reading Derrida or without reading Deleuze, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but you get informed about different readings by reading stuff that came later. So it's a vicious loop, and just jump into it. There's going to be stuff you don't understand, then you'll be reading something and you might have a click and be like, oh wait, shit, like when McLuhan was talking about this, maybe he was actually referring to this idea from Plato or whatever, and then you might want to go back and read it, be like, oh yeah, I see, I get it. Okay, that you guys are talking about something else. That's cool. Feels like you're never going to read any. You'll never read anything that way. Are you able to balance social life with all the reading? I like to think so. I mean, not with COVID. I don't see anyone. But normally, yeah, no problem. I got into Baudrillard through your very helpful videos. Congrats. Thank you a lot, Plato's Rave. Have any cool visions of the future? For what? Myself or for people generally? I mean, the world is not going in a great direction, but I should save on its own. I mean, I don't know how to save it myself, but it should be there later. Jordan Peterson is back with 12 more rules. Yeah, he's a joke. As a philosopher, what do you think about the purpose of life is? I have no idea. The purpose of life. I don't know. There's too much time thinking about even the possibility of life. Like, I don't even know what consciousness is. I don't know. Chances are, the kind of philosophers you mentioned earlier, I don't know, maybe is that a question currently being spoken about in Arabic philosophy circles? I don't know. I know nothing about that. I have no idea what the purpose of life is. What would you say are some of the most important feminist works? Most of the stuff by Sarah Ahmed's really great. Feminist works. Judith Butler, obviously. You know, to go back a bit to, you know, the quote unquote second wave. I like Shulamith Firestone. Is really great. But there's also obviously Angela Davis is can't really be topped. I like God, there's too many to really name. It's just so many great ones. Mohanty, Razak, Tabani, Berlant is another good one. Yeah. Fur critique is definitely underrated. I mean, I think those my earlier videos that I did like a few years ago when I first started. I don't know if everyone gets something out of them, that's great. But I think that they were so garbage. I just try to forget I did them. But yeah, definitely underrated. Do you think McLuhan needs a reestablishment in the canon? What canon? I mean, I'm in media studies, so he is the canon. So I don't know what canon. How many pages do you read a day on average? Well, these days, so what I do is I'll do like a bunch of reading in like a 2-week period and do a bunch of episodes, and then have like 5 weeks done, and then I'll stop. So on those days, I'll read probably like between 100 and 150 pages a day. Yeah. But what I like to happen is that I like to save my reading for the evening, where I'll read for like an hour and a half, which is normally the way I like to do things, so that I don't have to do them all at one time. But yeah, but I've been like these days I've been like someone asked earlier what this shit is on my arm. I've been working with my landlord to put up drywall and other renovation stuff, and it's just eaten up all my time. Not going in a great direction. Elaborate. Like what with humanity? I mean, like the fact that I don't even know where do you even start? Like, just ongoing exploitation, just massive reactionary political movements happening all over the globe, like unbelievable resistance to end oppression, like the continuing exploitation of the global south and the third world. Like it's I don't know, not great. What's your favorite video game? I know you oh shit. What's your favorite video game? I know you talked about games on the last live stream. Oh, really appreciate what you're doing this live stream. Thanks. Raw, favorite one? I don't know. I mean, there's some classics. I really like BioShock when it came out. Oh, Dark Souls. Dark Souls 1 is the best. Philosophers are like nerd. Philosophers are more like musicians. Sure. What's your take on Delanda's assemblage theory in comparison to the sort of thinking Deleuze and Guattari? Helpful extension, does it get in the way? I don't know. Delanda's assemblage theory, does he talk about that in... I've only read his 1,000 Years of Nonlinear History, and I don't remember if he talks about it there, but I don't really remember what that is from him. See you later, Matt. I guess I missed you already. See you later, One Dime. Purpose of life. There we go. Keep breathing. That's it. That's it. Ever read any Jasbir Puar? No, I haven't. I have actually never read any Jasbir Puar, which is bad. What is that hungry listening book behind you? That's Dylan Robinson. He's Indigenous writer. Stole. Stolo, sorry. Indigenous writer. who musicology, Indigenous musicology in Kingston, Canada. I think he's in Kingston. I think he's at Queen's. Yeah, super interesting stuff about the way that Indigenous music and Indigenous voices are kind of appropriated and not really listened to, but just kind of consumed. That's to put it quite simply. Feudal Lord, not worry about the purpose of life. Create something magnificent if you can. Deleuze and Guattari, sure. Brett Williams, oh hey, thanks for all the podcasts to listen to during work. I appreciate you trying to use as much layman terminology as reasonably possible for all the less academically educated people. I mean, I do it with so-called academically intelligent people or educated people as well. I think that I think it's important that this stuff should just be spoken about in clear terms. You don't need to be using esoteric language. It's just often it's just a way to flex, and it's not very useful. I've seen you play guitar. Do you think you've learned anything philosophical from learning and experiencing music? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Just that I know nothing. I mean, trying to learn music and learning music theory is so difficult, and it makes me feel stupid, and it helps me remember that I really know nothing about philosophy. I really know nothing about this stuff, which maybe is weird to say, but do you think that the internet brings us closer to truth or farther away? I have no idea. I would say probably, I don't even know, but it maybe gives us more facts. If you equate that with truth, then maybe. 150, yeah, it also depends on the book. Like if it's Hegel, it won't be that many. But yeah. Licking doorknobs is illegal on other planets, sure. Impressing. Sorry to be so esoteric, just pushing a bit. Yeah, keep pushing. Gramsci, yeah, I've read, excerpts from the prison notebooks and stuff. And stuff on hegemony, obviously. What is your favorite band's music? I've been listening to a lot of Japanese, city pop. That's kind of what it's called. Kind of Tetsuro Yamashita and obviously Maria Takuchi. But there's one album I've actually been listening to a lot. Oh my god! And of course I can't remember the name. It's called the Sea is a Lady in English, and I don't know what the original is. It's probably not that, but I actually have no idea what it is. God, what is the name of that album? Toshiki Korematsu, which is obviously great. I listen to Vaporwave too, and when I'm training or working out, I listen to mostly like 80s pop, 80s hair metal or 80s pop or something, because I'm a loser. Is 1,000 Years of Nonlinear History a good book? Yeah, it's a good book. It just talks about, the parts of history that we have kind of ignored. I once listened to several hours of your videos while finishing Dark Souls 2. Yeah, good. All those games. Dark Souls 2 is great too. I found your video on symbolic exchange really helpful since I'm currently reading for a critique. Yeah, because he mentions it there. I think that's probably the first time. I think that came up before the Mirror of Production. Yeah, that's the first time he mentions that. Fave 90s rave tune. I don't know. No idea. Do I believe in God? No. What are your thoughts on... Well, let me go... Like, I know it's a cop-out. Definitely agnostic, because I have no idea. But I don't think that there's a God in any religious sense. What are your thoughts on metal music? Yeah, I like metal, but like lame metal, like Metallica and Iron Maiden, if you call that metal. It's more like dad rock. But some, like, I won't turn it off. I don't mind it. I just don't really seek it out. What do you say you don't know about philosophy exactly? Can you expand the idea? There's just so much to know. There's that old parable, or however you call it. I don't know who it's from. Like, it might be Aristotle, but I don't remember. Or Plato. one of the Greeks, I think, where he's walking along the beach and he sees a kid, and the kid's running to the water, the ocean, and picking up the little bit of water he can in his hand, and going to this little hole in the sand, and jump in the hole, and he's going back and forth with the water in the hand into the hole. The philosopher's walking along. He's like, "What are you doing?" The kid's like, "I'm trying to put the sea, all that water in this hole." And the philosopher's like, "Oh, that's what the philosopher's trying to do, is put the entire sea of knowledge into their little brains." Yeah, so that's how. Yeah. What kind of philosophy of history stuff do you like? Foucault, I like the order of things, the archaeology of knowledge. I haven't actually read Hegel's philosophy of history, so I don't have an opinion about that. But yeah, vaporwave. Yeah, I like Blank Banshee, and the Spirit, definitely. Am I a fan of Onio Thrix Point? Never. I don't know who that is. So, yeah, 1,000 Years is worth a read. It's late when I'm from, but I'll leave by saying I generally appreciate your expositions. Thanks a lot, JC. I'll do this again at 20,000 followers, so in like 4 years maybe. And yeah, we can chat more. When it comes to philosophy, you don't even have to know everything, like experience with it and pick up what you like. Yeah, for sure. Go with what you like. Do your friends, family read similar theory? Yeah, my friends do, because I'm in certain grads student circles, so a lot of people read this stuff, and I hang out with people that are a lot smarter than me, like without a doubt, like people that know this stuff much better than me, able to articulate the ideas much better. Yeah, so definitely. Have I read any Mark Fisher? No, I have. Capitalist Realism. I've done an episode on that. Have I gotten into Kripke and Quinn at all? No, I haven't. Oni Hothrix is great. Lost but Never Alone is a great song. Great. I don't know it, but yeah. So, anything else? Tune off. That's a good question. Do I still see myself doing this after grad school? I don't know. It depends. I'm just doing it now because I have the time. Like with grad school, I have enough time, but I have to finish my dissertation, hopefully within a year, and then that would be pretty cool. Having that done, but then looking for jobs and stuff. I don't know how much time I'll be able to commit to this. So hopefully, I'm thinking by at least next summer, not this coming summer, but the end of this summer, 2022. I'll hopefully be able to keep doing it as consistently as possible. But after that, I don't know. I'll have to reassess and see. It depends on how much support I get. If people are able to, help. So by that point, I might ask, like, people help support monetarily, and I'll keep doing it as much as I can. But it will come down to money will be a factor at that point, obviously, and I'll have to weigh all that. I'm doing my PhD. I'm hopefully will finish within 12 months. That would be pretty great. But yeah, I don't know what. Hopefully, yeah, I'm doing my PhD. That's the answer. How to meet people with an interest in philosophy. I mean, on here, if you mean in person, meet people, difficult. That's difficult because a lot of people will get their ideas about philosophy from, like, I don't know, Joe Rogan or something, and it's not like all those ideas are bad, but it's a lot of the same stuff. Yeah. Do you think philosophy is more effective than science in explaining reality? I don't know. It depends what you would like. How would you define an explanation? Like, if we were asking about, like, what makes, like what exists beneath representations in the form of like atoms and molecules and stuff. Probably science, but in terms of like what reality actually is, as far as like consciousness goes and stuff, I think that you're going to have to appeal to the philosophers for that. But I don't really. I mean, I don't really keep. I don't know what science is talking about now because I don't really keep up with it. But Saul Kripke, at least philosophy of language. Kripkenstein sounds good. What's my favorite Bojart book? A few. I like The Perfect Crime, Symbolic Exchange and Death, for a critique of the political economy of the sign. The Mirror of Humanism. Not Simulacra and Simulation. That's definitely low on the list for me. Fatal Strategies, great one. He has so many. I'm probably forgetting one I really like, but yeah. Where to next for your philosophy? What are you interested in exploring? Like for my own work, I need to write a book chapter. I need to write a book chapter for a book about conspiracy theories, and that's due in a while. It's due in December, so I have a long time to write that. But that'll be good. That's criticizing some contemporary views about conspiracy theories that I have problems with. I met a philosophy group through Meetup. Yeah, I mean that sounds great. You can use like so many sites probably to do that. That kind of sucks. I'm in my first year of undergrad, so I don't think about it. But when you're really done, the question of what your job will be and how you'll make money becomes quite pressing. Yeah, it does. It does. My dissertation is about conspiracy theories, and what they might do, what they can do, in terms of political movements. Yeah, that's the 2-second version. How do I talk to my Jordan Peterson friends about Jordan Peterson? I keep just finding myself at a loss for words, and I'm worried about them. Ooh. I don't know, because it depends what kind of Jordan Petersonite they are. Like, if they're I hate all trans people Petersonite, and like men are being oppressed by like women, that kind of person is going to be very different from the kind of Petersonite that's like, oh, he's just trying to make like my life better by telling me to make my bed. These are two very different beasts, and I don't know. They would take very different approaches. My thing is that, like, I don't know. I just like to say that, against Peterson, I just say I'm a Nietzschean. Like, I could think of no better philosopher to oppose to Jordan Peterson than Nietzsche, but yet Jordan Peterson thinks that he's somehow aligned with Nietzsche's work in some way. But yeah, that's not a great answer. I mean, we need to have a longer discussion about that, but yeah. Have I read Philosophy of Liberation? I am attempting to write my thesis on Mignolo's concept of border thinking and how we have to reinterpret traditional Eurocentric texts as non-universals. Philosophy of Liberation, like I understand the concept. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Good luck. A lot of feminists, especially, and a lot of indigenous thinkers, in my context, I don't know where you are, but in the Canadian context, would discuss that and have very good criticisms of Eurocentric ways of thinking that might be helpful to you. Alfred Sellers has a book on science and philosophy, can't remember the name, talks about the myth of the given. I don't know what that is. It could be interesting. Say more about your research on conspiracy theories, please. Here my computer is dying. This is what I have to do. Charge my computer is kick the battery. How many books a month do you reckon you read? Probably however many episodes you see. If I do 4 books, then I'll probably have read 4 books, and then I do a bunch of my own research. Probably like 5 or 6 books a month, maybe more. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, my research on conspiracy theories is just like I don't know, there's just so many efforts to describe them as being a departure from like rationality, a departure from truth, a departure from, proper information, and instead going towards misinformation. And I'm just totally dissatisfied with that. And there's also a whole like camp of thought that's pretty common that's like, oh, conspiracy theories are this new problem we're dealing with like the internet, when that is absolutely not the case. I mean, as far as the literature tells us, conspiracy theories have been pretty much stagnant in their presence. And, this was a study done a few years ago, maybe 10, not even 10 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that they've been pretty stagnant for like 100 years. So the internet doesn't seem to have had that much of an effect. Additionally, there were other conspiracy theory scholars thinking that, oh, well, the internet will be the thing that will get rid of conspiracy theories because people can, spread real knowledge around, which has proved to not be the case. So there are just too many reductive, in my opinion, reductive ways to look at conspiracy theories that just don't get at the heart of the matter. And I'm trying, quite auspiciously, which is to say, I'm very much in pointing myself towards success in an almost naive way, in that I'm trying to just find new ground to look at conspiracy theories, but I don't know what'll happen with that. Could you elaborate on the Nietzsche-Peterson opposition? I mean, Nietzsche was diametrically opposed to everything Christian and everything science. At least that much is clear from the genealogy of morality, and people just like kind of naively submitting to like scientific or Christian doctrine, which Peterson's like science, the Bible, and it's just very strange. As are you aware of the third printing gun guy, Cody Wilson, being huge into Bojart, citing him as a major influence? I don't know about that. A lot of conspiracy theories are actually cyber warfare. Sure. Gotta go. Take care. See you later, Raul. Thanks for tuning in. I'll stick around for 5 more minutes till 9. If anyone has any more questions, I'd like to answer. Maybe I'll do a surprise one of these one day. I'll play guitar or something, and just I won't talk, and you can just listen to me butcher your favorite songs if you like the songs I like and play. Nothing else? No? Hauntology, I don't know. I haven't read Mark Fisher's stuff on hauntology, nor I've read Spectres of Marx, but it's been too many years of Derrida, and I'd like to read it again, but I don't remember it. Afro-pessimism is great. I like Frank Wilderson a lot. I've actually seen him. I saw him give a talk once, and I like him. He's like his thinking. He's a wicked smart, very, very eloquent. What am I hoping to get out of philosophy? I'm not hoping to get anything out of philosophy. I'm not hoping to get anything out of philosophy. I like it, and I like learning about all these different things, and none of them give me anything really, which I'm sure I'll just forget it in 5 years, and it will have been for nothing. Depro Gamer, I am in Ontario. I'm in London. Sure. I don't know. Maybe after COVID. Yeah. Where are you? Have you ever had imposter syndrome? Oh, yeah. I think that's part of the reason why I did this. I was like, I don't know anything about this stuff. People are talking about it, and I have no idea what the hell anyone's saying. I still don't. Like, some of the people I hang out with, they talk, and I don't have any idea what they're talking about. Like, that made me, I think, want to read a lot, so I started to read a lot, and I thought, well, it'd be cool if I could make these ideas accessible to people, I could give my 2 cents, and maybe and give my 2 cents and help anyone else along, and hopefully encourage a dialogue that would be like, helpful to everyone, which has been great. I get great, I've seen some people have added some great comments and stuff that I don't have the time to respond to now, because there are a lot of comments and I can't respond to all of them. But yeah, where am I here? See you later, Paul, if that means you're taking off. You probably missed you already, but how are your experiences entering into a PhD program? Question above by Noah is also something I struggle with. It's a lot. I think I have a lot of personal opinions about grad school that I think I won't share because they're not great. But grad school and academia generally is a pretty toxic space, and there are a lot of problems with it. There's very few. I shouldn't say this, but there are way too many bad advisors and bad supervisors out there. I don't have them, thank God. That just screw people over, and they don't care about you, and then you're stuck in this program that you're paying tuition for, and it never ends. I mean, I'm not selling grad school very much, but I definitely would recommend anybody to do an MA. I think that's a great experience, but a PhD is just not. I really would dissuade people, because it's a lot of work and it's really difficult, very alienating too. Sandra, hi. Well, if you think of something in the next minute, I'm just about to drop off here. Album dropping, yeah. I'll get right on that, Dylan. You're in Toronto? Where? If you want to give more details, I spent a fair amount of time around the Junction, in Toronto, near of course I can't remember any of it. Just the Junction, Dundas West Station, essentially, right around there. Do you think philosophy should be a must in high school? Yeah, I would say so, but I think it could also take a few different forms, like in like English or whatever. Whatever language requirement. I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Well, everyone, I think I'll tune out. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, it's great to have so many people here. And yeah, I'll do this again at 20,000, so we'll see you again in like 3 years. But yeah, tell your friends if you haven't already. Maybe they like what I can offer. Maybe they won't. Who knows? And yeah, take care, everyone. And it was a blast. I'll see you next time.